Now, as South Africa readies to host world leaders for the historic G20 Summit later this month, another powerful global gathering is already underway in Cape Town. Nearly 500 influential women from 30 countries have converged in the mother city for the International Women's Forum Cornerstone Conference, a meeting of minds exploring how women's leadership can redefine connection, resilience, as well as progress. Anchored on the African philosophy of Ubuntu, I am because we are, the conference will tackle some of the most defining issues of our time, from artificial intelligence and global politics to culture and creativity. That's through the lens of women shaping the world. Iman Rappetti joining us live now from the mother city for this one. Iman, a very significant event here being held just shy of the G20 Leaders Summit, and it's still one of the most pertinent and important conversations to be had, not just for South Africa, which in itself needs to have this conversation, but certainly globally.
A series of conversations, I would add, Arabile, because women are still underrepresented in senior executive positions. We still have an issue of an ongoing pay gap, a wage pay gap between men and women for the same roles and the same jobs. So it would seem as, you know, even though we've taken so many steps forward, there is still a battle to be waged, fought and won. And it makes up some of the themes of the conversations here. You talked about this being a global conference. It's bringing together hundreds of women leaders from across the world, talking about the subjects you've already shared there in your introduction. But it also brings together some of the local flavor, but iconic women in their own right, Tandiswa Mazwai and Mam Aleta Mbulu. So it's going to be a couple of days of thinking and of celebrating and of also enjoying the music and the culture that South Africa brings to all of this. Ubuntu is the name and the theme of the conference this morning. So I want to bring in one of the co-chairs of the IWF's South African chapter, and this is Khosi Bambisa. Khosi, good morning. I know you woke up early. These proceedings will get underway a little bit later. The president is also going to be here because this is quite a formidable gathering of women. For those in our audience who do not know who the IWF is and the South African chapter is, just enlighten us, please, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Imani. IWF is International Women's Forum. It is a global forum with about over 8,000 members across 33 countries with one agenda, you know, women in arts, women in fashion, women in corporate, women in government, women in aerospace, all coming together to just advance one cause: women leadership. How do we make sure that the world represents women leaders in the same way that the demographics does across the world? And the South African chapter, which was founded over 20 years ago, is just a subset of the 33 countries.
Look, I looked at the speakers list, and it's a formidable list. Some of the colleagues we know and recognize, but also people hailing from the UN. Of course, you've got the Secretariat of the IWF as well, and all of these South African leaders joining to enrich these conversations. Women in finance, and it was kind of what I alluded to there, are still underrepresented. I mean, you're with Facet, which is also about skills development and providing opportunities, I think, in a way, in terms of making sure that you've got a volume of people who are ready to do a specific type of work, particularly in financial services. Talk to us about the challenges therein.
And I think you've alluded to it already. Only third of women in leadership. I mean, in my corporate, only 2 women executives, right? Group executive levels. And you're thinking, what can be done? They've done chapters, but women are not developing at the same scale that we'd like them to. So IWFSA, under the leadership of Mam Irene Chandli, as well as Mam Nalita Fokute, actually came together with Facet to create a program to actually create women executives and both in middle management. So over 1,000 women went through this program to actually go through rigorous mentorship, rigorous training, and how do you actually lead as a woman and how do you present yourself. And Duke Corporate Education was actually our service provider in delivering that education. So that was with one agenda: how do we scale up and make sure that more women are represented in especially listed companies.
So how does this conversation impact what's happening, I want to say, in the real world? I mean, you have a group of really powerful, formidable women who do have a voice. Certainly we can recognize the voices of Nolita Fakude, for example, and an Irene Chandli, who are, you know, kind of women first in business in South Africa, one in mining and one in the technology sector. What kind of difference do you make, I want to say, in the real world? Of course, they live in the real world and operate in the real world every day, but in terms of creating this exponential change and changing these numbers?
And I think for them, it started with a vision, right? It's like, I cannot be the first and I cannot be the only. So how do I lift as I rise, right? And they brought practical mentorship. Like, this is my experience, I'm sharing it with 1,000 women. So I, Kosi, can go back to my company and actually say, hey, I'm sitting here, there's only 2. How do I create a pathway for myself, right? And this was not spread on 1 Kosi or 2 Kosis, across 1,000 women. And they not only came as 2, they brought their friends, they brought the chapter, they brought everyone that they could who's influential in this space to actually say, use your corporate social responsibility and just invest in this woman and make sure that it is scaled, it is represented, and it is making the impact. And I think what I liked about it, it not only ended the program, they went and created an alumni, which is what I co-chair, right? To actually say this needs to continue. And us as the alumni, then finding other people to actually mentor, other people to bring up, so that it is a continuous cycle of mentorship. I learn and I teach more.
Sounds wonderful, and we will keep you posted on more of these conversations. Thank you, Kosi, for just setting the scene there for us. We're back throughout the course of the day and into the early afternoon, just tracking some of the conversations that no doubt are going to be invigorating and also creating a challenge that society needs to rise to. Back to you in studio, Arabile.